Welcome to part 2 of the Nimzo Guide by Chess and Lattes. So if you haven't seen part 1, I'll put a link, and now we're gonna cover other variation from the white side. So A3 is a very principal line called the Saemisch. White is saying, give me the bishop pair and I'm gonna attack you. That's very important, and once again, to keep this repertoire in line with the video part 1, I'm also recommending b6 with the bishop going on b7. Now, the key principal move for white is to play f3, and then after bishop a6 here, targeting the c4 double pawn, e4 is the main line. Now, as you can see, this was played by Magnus Carlsen online 2021 against Wesley So with white. So this is really, top grandmaster repertoire here. So let's continue the game. Bishop g5, and here queen c8. So what is the idea for black? Knight a5, c5. You're blocking all of these weak pawns, and eventually you're gonna open the c line and really develop your play on the queen side. So now bishop g3, knight a5, queen e2, defending the c4 pawn. Now d6 played, and here the queen comes back here. So why is the queen going back on d7, you may ask? Well, queen a4, and then you can attack, of course, the c4. So it's all about playing against the double pawn on the c file. So now this game was very exciting. That's all you need to remember in this line as far as the opening theory. But let's just see how black Magnus Carlsen won against Wesley So. Very important in this line, you can castle long with black because you're very secure over here. And now you can see the c4 pawn disappear. Black is winning the e4 pawn, and you have really a winning endgame here. And Grandmaster Wesley So resigned, and this is completely winning for black, attacking h2 and e5. So this was a fun game to display, but now very important, how do we summarize what we've seen in this line? That the same with for a3, you see the move on the left, and on the right, you have the key position after queen c8. So that's the opening line I recommend to play against 4a3, and feel free to play this as black in practice games against a computer or even try it online, and let me know in the comments if you have success fighting the Saemisch. On to the next line. In this variation, black has to face 4f3. 4f3 over here, that's a very aggressive move and a very dangerous move against the Nimzo. So d5 is the principal reaction, and then a3. So you take, it looks a little bit like the Saemisch that we've seen in the previous line 4, except that black has committed to d5. The problem is, like, if you were to start with b6 over here, then e4 is very strong, and it's not as easy for black to play this position. That's why I recommend this setup, and here you have to strike in the center, c5, take, e3. Now Carlsen in a game against Anand plays c4, but that's very dangerous. I recommend queen c7, a sideline which is very good. Now you're also threatening to take, and then do queen c3 check. So knight e2 is a very popular move, knight c6, knight f4, and now only you play c4, and you have a very interesting complex game. So I won't show any long lines over here, but remember that against f3, I recommend to strike in the center. Now, it is possible after a3 to go back to bishop e7, but you have a lot of moves to know in this line. So that's why I recommend to strike in the center and occupy the center with black. Play queen c7, a sideline, and then lock the center with c4. So that's what I recommend against 4f3. And as usual, I will now show you what the moves that we just played and the key position after c5 you should practice and study. Very important. In some other videos, people only put the lines or only put the diagram. Very important. You cannot have the moves on your left here on your screen and on the right. You cannot remember the key position in this line. You have the diagram. So I think that that's the most efficient way to study lines. You cannot memorize the moves in your head, but you're trying to have a visual of what the key position looks like against 4f3. On to the next line. In the line 6 in this video, we're covering 4 knight f3. Once again, to be consistent with what I recommended as a repertoire, I recommend b6 and bishop b7. That should keep it simple to memorize the line. So now the main line goes like this. You play h6. Now you play g5 in this line, pushing back the bishop. Knight e4, queen c2. You take, and play d6. Now bishop g3 is the main line, and now you have f5. Once again, this move f5 is very common. You are protecting the knight on e4. The bishop on b7 is looking over here. Your next move, I think you guessed it by now, knight d7, queen f6, and you have a lot of play. Now in this position, d5 is probably the best move. Why doing d5? By doing d5, you're trying to limit the bishop here. You're also threatening to take on e4. And here, I recommend queen f6, and you're not worried about taking on e4. Just to show you, that was a game between Andrew Tang and Hikaru Nakamura, and black took here, then the queen b2 check, and then retreated here, and that position was better for black, and they continue to play. They came into the ending, and black has a better position in this ending. You can see that the knight can jump to c5. You can use the rook over here, and you have a better pawn structure for black. Now, the other move you should think about in this position is knight d4, attacking e6 twice, and now white wants to play f3 as well. So here, knight c5 is very important. f3 played, you take, and lock the position with e5. Very important move. And now the game continued, and let me show you an example game here, a few more moves. And here, white resigned. The player with the black pieces was very strong Ukrainian grandmaster Karabov. So I'm suggesting repertoire backed by GM games. Now, as always, at this stage, this was just to give you an example of the kind of game you can get. Very important in this line number 6. These are the moves, and this is the position you should aim for. With 11 f5, you're consolidating your knight on e4. That was line 6. Please take a snapshot or look at that, and we're going to move on to another line to cover with the black pieces. In the line number 7, we're going to cover 4 bishop g5. But just to recap, in the first video, we looked at e3, b6, bishop d3, bishop b7, knight f3. That was line number 1. In line number 2, we covered knight e2 to protect c3. In line number 3, in the first part of the video, we covered queen c2. That was part 1 in the video that I can put the link in the description. And then in this own video, we covered the remaining moves. a3, the Saemisch, We also covered f3, which I think is the most dangerous move you should prepare. And then we looked at knight f3, b6, bishop g5, which was very important. In this last video, white can try bishop g5 directly. Now you chase the bishop, you play c5, attacking the center, very important. d5 is the principal move. You take, and you have again these double pawns that you're playing against. Now d6 is important, queen e7, you don't castle too early in this line. And here the key move that white plays, the most common move in the databases, knight on d2. That's very important because then that could free f3, e4. White is trying to build a center. Then you go knight b6, and here you take, and you chase the bishop, and you win a pawn over here. That was a game going on like that, but you don't need to know too many moves after that. What I would recommend is really remembering this position, the queen in e7. You're gonna prepare g5, and you're gonna wait to decide where you put your king. Sometimes the king hide on e7, sometimes you can do long castle, sometimes you can also castle kingside, but you wait and you look at what white does. So that's bishop g5 line. Used to be very popular in the 90s. It's less popular. And one more time, we're gonna go back and just recap what we should keep in mind in this line. There are the moves leading to this position, and this is the position on the right. So with the line 7, I covered, I believe, the key lines you could face with black, and providing some I hope useful setups and ideas to play this defense against d4. Thank you again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.